Sound check, sound check, sound check.
When picking a commerce platform, you have two choices.
Oh, you piece of...
Or,
Yeah!
that's the sound of selling on Shopify, online, in person, and beyond. Join the millions of businesses growing on Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/YouTube audio.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to open this open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Fowl, Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Can we still please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I will turn it over to Dr. Scarlett.
Good evening, everyone. So we'll get started this morning with back-to-school updates.
Evening. I know it's
Is it evening?
evening.
Did I say good morning?
You did.
Oh, I did.
He's so clean. He's so
We don't sleep here. We don't sleep. All right. So good evening. Thank you. I thought in my mind it was evening. All right. Dr. Craig? Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I feel like I've done this enough and I couldn't get the microphone to turn on. Well, good evening, everyone. I almost said good afternoon. I am excited to show you, we have just an infographic for you, which is, we're calling it our back to school by the numbers. And so we wanted to provide the board with just a high level overview of our first day of school. So if you just want to peruse the document, these are just some things that we are excited about. I'm going to save what I think is the best for last. So 21,000 backpacks were distributed for students. So this is the second year in a row that we're providing a full range of school supplies for our students, and that greets them on their first day of school. So that includes the backpacks and all of the supplies that they'll need to start the year off. Additionally, with our laptops, 15,000 iPads and 7,000 laptops have been distributed to schools for student distribution. If you go on and continue looking down, you'll see that we had, for professional development, 69 cohorts. So that means different cohorts of personalized professional development were delivered to our school leaders, our teachers, and our school-based staff. 1,989 staff members attended professional development to kick off the year. I love this next fact. 104 English language learners new to SLPS started with our schools yesterday. 406 new hires started with us yesterday on Monday. Last Friday, 43 of our secretaries engaged in customer service training. We're really working to make sure that we are contributing to a positive environment for all of our stakeholders. 14 media interviews took place. And then I want to bring you back up to the middle of the page. And this is one I think we should really, this is a great victory to start off the year. So if you look at that here, we have 14,304 students attended school yesterday. And so that is 71.1% of the projected students attended. When you compare that with the first day of school last year, we had 12,007 students who came to school on the first day, 67% of our projected enrollment. So you can see that our first day attendance is up from last year, and that trend continued today. 79% of our projected enrolled students attended school today. So we've done a lot of work to get students here, and that speaks to the work of transportation, speaks to the work of communication, the Urban League, all of the events that we've done. We have more kids sitting in our schools learning on day 1 and 2 than we had last year. So it's a huge victory for us, and I'm just excited to share that with you all tonight. So with that, it was also Dr. Scarlett's first day of school yesterday. And so we are excited to show she had a very hot and early morning yesterday and today. And so we have a video to show you of her first day of school.
All right, Miss Kim, we ready? Good morning. How are you doing? I'm Dr. Scarlett, superintendent. It's nice to meet you. What's your name? Hey, good morning. How are you doing? Good morning. Hey, I'm so excited to hear about students. My first students for the first day. So when you get there, you get them. Okay, all right. We have a really nice program there. Have you visited Klein Miller? Good morning. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, nice to meet you. Hey, good morning. I'm just following directions.
We have a back to school assembly.
I feel like I can help you. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. I get to see my friends again. How are you? It's nice to see you again.
That's all of us.
Yes, the whole family. Welcome back, y'all. How are you doing? You excited for the first day? How are you doing? Good morning. What's your name? It's nice to meet you. What's your name? Victoria. It's nice to meet you. Are you excited about the first day? Yes. I know. Hey. I love it.
There we go.
So just as a note to close this out, Dr. Scarlett will be continuing to start her day with our scholars and our students, also riding the school bus both tomorrow to school and as well on Thursday. So the heat is not letting up, and neither is she. She'll be on the bus with kids. And so just excited to continue this momentum that we started this year. And thank you for your time.
Dr. Crapo, I have a question or two. I don't know if I actually have a question. I think I want more so of a compliment. I want to recognize Mr. Watson, because we've been behind the scenes really seeing the hard work that you put in, especially on the transportation. And I want to commend you publicly for the outstanding work that you've done and going to those base camps where the bus drivers are. You didn't have to do that. But just seeing what we saw with what Dr. Scarlett did, these 2 days on her first day, that was all possible because of you. And we have to understand it takes respect, relationship building, and morale. And I think that's what you really leaned in and provided to those bus drivers to make them understand and feel to be a part of this and what we were trying to do. So I want to thank you for an outstanding job and let you know that we do see you and see the work that you've done to go from 60-something% last year to 71 and now up to what you said, Dr. Crapo, 79%. That's what we're trying to do. And I want to commend you, and she think I'm not paying attention to her, but Dr. Crapo, I want to recognize you for the work that you did. There was a lot of naysayers, and people didn't understand the fight that we were having and the impact that we were trying to make sure that we were trying to make with all the back to school events, but specifically the Urban League event, and to hear that we had 406 hires, I would and I thought we would see something in this, how many students we were actually able to enroll and register and assist in that Urban League event. I know Miss Willis and her team, and I know Steven Anderson and his team. I know you all played a very big part in that, and there was some pushback at first because you guys didn't really understand what we were looking for, but that's what we were looking for. We have to change the mindset of how we're servicing our families, and what you guys did was very remarkable. I think that Urban League event was a game changer. It changed the way people saw and understood what St. Louis Public Schools was possible and what we can do. And you guys did an excellent job. So I want to commend you, your team. I want to commend Mr. Watson. And the last person that I definitely want to commend is Colonel Davis. You all have put in many, many late night hours, and you continue to show up unwavered, and I want to commend you for that. I know Dr. Scarlett has been out nonstop. She can't sit down. She's telling us it's the morning time, and clearly it's evening. But she can't do that without the safety officers, and not only are you protecting the superintendent, but I've seen the outstanding work that you all have done in protecting our students and our families and staff. So I want to commend you guys. We don't often do that, and we need to. And this is an excellent back to school report. I just wish that we would get more information in regards to how or what the turnout is when we're trying to service our families at not just the Urban League back to school event, but I know there have been several events that have been going on, and trying to ensure that we're supporting our families and getting them registered and getting our kids in the seats, because that's what it's about. We can't teach them if we don't have them here or know where they are. So I wanted to speak on that. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And just as a note, Ms. Van Noy just whispered to me that 42 students we enrolled as of the Saturday, the Urban League. And I think in terms of human resources, I think you all scheduled how many interviews, Dr. Berry? 149 interviews with potential staff members that day.
Thank you.
And Ryan L. Jackson supported the work.
Is there any more questions for Dr. Crapo, or are there any questions? Because I didn't really have a question, I think. Thank you, Dr. Crapo.
Thank you, Dr. Crapo. So we'll transition to a presentation on student outcomes focused governance, or excuse me, student outcomes focused goals. Oops. And I will be sharing that presentation, so you can move to the slides. All right. So you can move to the next slide. The purpose of this presentation this evening is to provide the board with key information on student outcomes focused goals and the role they play toward creating an effective school district. After the board hears this presentation, we'll move into work time. Board members will have the opportunity to explore a menu of goal areas and select 4 goal areas that will be the district focus. This is really a unique opportunity during this work session for our board to establish clear priorities and align our system behind those priorities in pursuit of excellence for our students. Next slide. So not to steal Janet Tilley's thunder, but we have pulled over these elements of effective districts from our MSBA work, and we're really looking forward to that. And so I want to spend some time providing a why behind the direction we're moving. And as you can see from the slide, Dr. Robert Marzano outlines the elements of effective school districts. You'll see that there's collaborative goal setting, non-negotiable goals for achievement in instruction, board alignment and support of district goals, monitoring student achievement, monitoring achievement and instruction goals, and also allocating resources toward our values. I always say that how do we allocate resources in service of our values to support goals for achievement and instruction, which is why we're here. Thank you. So the key trend that you'll see from the slide is really around, can you move back to the other slide, sorry about that, is around the importance of establishing goals and monitoring them as a system. So as a superintendent, I'm passionate and have a laser focus on key priorities that will change the trajectory of our students' lives. And education is tempting to want to do it all, but we can't do everything right now. So it's critical to focus our energy on a few high leverage items. These areas will become our student-focused outcomes goals that will guide our system moving forward. Next slide. So as we move towards selecting student outcomes-focused goals, I want to provide brief background and an overview. Our student-focused goals comes from a framework, in some ways from national work. And this framework really promotes clearly defining goals, monitoring accountability with an emphasis on aligning actions. It pushes us to focus on how students perform in critical areas. Next slide. So from the screen, you can see the key descriptors of student outcomes focused goals. I want to bring your attention to number 1. This is a measure of student results rather than adult results. So student outcomes are distinct from adult outcomes. You'll notice that as a definition, that student outcomes are focused on what students know and are able to do. And these goals generally take the form of a student outcome that will increase in between some type of time-bound time. A lot of times we focus on adult outcomes, and adult outcomes are important, but they need to be put into context. So adult outcomes are focused on adult results such as central office effectiveness, things that are really about adult practice. But we really want to narrow these in and organize our system around how do we create high quality outcomes for students. Next slide. So nested in this is really acknowledging the hard work that has been done in our system over time. As a new superintendent coming in, it's really important for me to acknowledge the work as our pathway forward and how do we build upon that. We don't need to keep reinventing the wheel. So work has been done. We've created a transformation plan that has the 5 pillars that are identified there. And but we also have this our citywide plan, which is the next slide. Our citywide plan for education is a blueprint. I call it a community engagement report. That a blueprint can't be just given to a school district and say, follow this. It has to be deeply integrated into the work that we've already done and the work that we'll move into in the future, working in collaboration. And so just to remind you of the work groups from the citywide plan that will really help us to move forward, school experience, community, health and wellness and safety, infrastructure, education and workforce. These are areas that were identified for community as ways that we can organize our system. And so, again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's been enough studies done on St. Louis public schools. We don't need another study. We just need to get to work and move forward and to really align our working practices. So I'm excited about that. Thank you. So this gives you a little bit of a path. It's nice to kind of look at the pathway forward. That back in 21-23, there was the development of the transformation plan, and then moving forward this past year, the citywide plan for education. And now here we are in this space right now. I'm just so excited about this moment in time that we have this opportunity to select goals right here in this moment in order to organize ourselves, to move forward, to create what I call a portfolio of measures, and we reframe those as measures of success. We start to frame our work around success. What are our early success indicators instead of early warning indicators? How are we measuring success? How are we measuring opportunities as we move forward? And then progress monitoring. How are we ultimately accountable to our broader public through our relationship with our Board of Education here? So this work has been in progress for years, and the district has really worked hard to include the voices of many stakeholder groups, and we'll continue to engage our community in this work as we move forward. So this slide provides an overview. Oh, sorry. Today we'll select 4 goal areas. I went off script. My bad. Sorry, Dr. Cravel. She gives me great talking points, but I just like to get excited. All right. So today we'll select 4 goal areas, and once we've identified this, we'll think about what is the type of baseline data that we can use in order to move forward with it. So in front of you, you have a document labeled Menu of Student Outcomes Focused Goals. On this document, there are 10 goal areas for you to select from and for your consideration. These goals were developed from the citywide plan and a transformation plan with the support of the cabinet team. We actually, what day was that, our retreat? The 14th? On the 14th, engaged in a day-long retreat talking about our values, what are our shared values moving forward, and how do we use those to really leverage this work as we move forward? How do we decide this work? That it's not enough to just say that Dr. Marion Smith Jr. is the Chief Academic Officer, so he should just set our goals, but all of us play a key part in the academic achievement of our students. So everyone needs to have skin in the game, all of us. So I'm requesting the board selects 4 goals this evening. And so I'd like for you to first look at the literacy section on the first page. You'll notice that there are 2 goals under literacy. We have a 3rd grade reading proficiency, like goal area, and also an 8th grade reading proficiency. Under each goal area, we have identified sample measures or a way we will measure this goal area. As we move forward, we may decide to have several measures for our goal areas that focus on different subgroups. Now, I want to note that we're not selecting sample measures this evening. That will come up in October. We are only selecting goal areas. In October, Dr. Crapo will provide an update to the board on the data that we collect as a district, and this will inform our measures. As you continue to review the document, you will see that we have goal areas for literacy, mathematics, early learning, college and career readiness, and culture and climate. There are many different ways that you can select 4 goal areas. Some boards decide to focus on all math or all literacy. Other boards select goals areas from multiple categories. You may find that a goal area is missing, and you can create your own. The bottom line is we're selecting our focus areas. This does not mean that we will monitor other areas. It just means that these 4 areas are our priorities. So I'll pause here and see if the board has any clarifying questions.
Any questions for Dr. Scarlett? Great job, Dr. Scarlett. Keep going.
All right, keep it rolling. All right, so this is the exciting time here, and I'm just excited for us to be on the floor together. That we'll move into work time. So I recommend that you begin by reflecting individually. And after you've had time to read through the document, you can work with a partner. So we're going to do a little bit of a think, pair, share as a protocol, okay? So I'm going to give you some individual think time, let's say about 5 minutes or so, to just kind of go through, think about those areas, how they resonate with you. I'm someone who likes to annotate on my paper. You can do however you like, I always say however the spirit moves you. But we'll come back together in 5 minutes, and then I'll tell you in about 5 minutes to turn to an elbow partner, talk with them about what you notice here on the document, what resonates with you, and then we'll come back together and transition into the next phase of this work time together. Okay? All right, I'm setting the timer.
30 seconds.
All right. So I noticed that some people went ahead and transitioned into partner talk, which is absolutely great. Okay. So let's give you about another 5 minutes of just partner talk. So turn and talk to a partner, and talk about like what you were areas that resonated with you, your why, and then we'll come back together in 5 minutes and transition.
Dr. Scarlett, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you help me define the difference between proficiency and growth? Because
Yes.
those are both terms that are used all the time.
Yeah.
When I think of growth, I think of star reading, although I know that's now in the MAP APR. And then proficiency, I've never really understood what that means because they use it basic, beyond basic. So I guess, and maybe this is a conversation for later, but what are we measuring?
Typically, proficiency is reserved for summative assessments, and I'll have Chief Van Noy can speak about this. And so proficiency is just like at a standard level of a student being proficient or even greater than proficient. So let's just imagine that we have a 4-point scale, that in order to be determined to be proficient, that you would be at 3 points, but you can be above, at 4. So proficiency on like a summative assessment means that there is some cut score and that you're proficient at that level, and then you could be even above that level, but you need to meet that level in order to be proficient. Now, growth is an interesting thing, and I don't want to go down the slippery slope of student growth percentiles and different things like that, because we're going to get into that in our next conversation. But growth is typically there's an amount that we think about a typical growth amount. And, a student cannot be proficient, but can be high growth. So you can look at sort of the level of I would say, of performance. And let's say that in reading, they grow 2 grade levels or 1.6 grade levels, that they still may not have met the proficiency standard for like 4th grade literacy. However, you can track what their growth is over time. You've seen, that growth. Now, we know with our proficiency levels in St. Louis Public Schools that our students can't just grow 1 year. They can't just grow from 3rd grade to 4th grade, because that's what typical growth would be, and that would be for students on the typical trajectory. We know our children got to go double time and even triple time, right? So that's sort of nuanced differences between that and specific, because I'm coming from a different context. I'd love for Chief Van Noy to be able to share and either correct something that I said was incorrect or illuminate as well. Thank you.
No, you were perfect. Thank you. So as she indicated, with the MAP performance, there's 4 achievement levels: below basic, basic, proficient, advanced. So when we talk about proficient, that's what we're talking about on the MAP. With star reading, we can also see growth in that. So we talk about GE, which is grade level equivalency. So I get a score. I might be in 3rd grade. It might be the 3rd month. So my GE would be 3.3 if I'm on level. But if I'm in 3rd grade and I'm reading at a 1.2 level, but in a year I grow 9 months, then I've made growth, but I'm not at the level of grade level equivalency. So that's the 2 differences. We also get growth back when we get the MAP results back. So we'll be able to see those students who are on level to be proficient or advanced, and we'll also be able to compare their 3rd, 4th, 5th grade scores to see if they grew over time.
So, and again, I just want to be clear though. So should we also be picking, are we picking proficiency or growth? Are we picking MAP growth and MAP proficiency, or star growth and star proficiency? Because just in my experience, watching these board meetings, we play a shell game with data. And so we use it for what we want to use. So I would just like to, I've been quoting our good friend Mike Jones a lot, have some stipulated facts that if we're going to set goals, that we're going to pick one and stick with it.
Is that Mike Jones, the rapper? Oh, okay.
The Mike Jones.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Okay. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. You know, what we are focused on are the goal areas. We just gave sample ones to let you know sort of in context what it might be. That is our portfolio of measures conversation that we will have. We need to look at the correlation between the measures that we do have and how they actually predictive of where students are performing. We need to look at a portfolio of measures that really reflect the whole child. And so that's the next level work within this. So for this, you're just looking at these numbers 1, 2 through 7, 1 through 7, and thinking about the ones that really resonate with you. That's the next phase where we'll start talking about, okay, how are we measuring these different goal areas? Yes.
Is there any more questions before we start the timer? Does that help, Vice President Davis? Thank you.
All right, so elbow partners, I'm gonna cut you down a little bit, 3 minutes, okay? Just kidding, 5 minutes is fine. All right, welcome back. We'll go back into one conversation. So hopefully you had a chance to talk with a neighbor, a partner about the different goals that are on here, to think about the pros and cons of each goal area. And it's really nice to think about low-hanging fruit. So what are the areas that are ripest for implementation? It might be something that you thought about. So as we make considerations, I'll ask the question to our board, just based upon what you've looked at, what are the areas that you think might be right for implementation for us to move forward with? And what are the areas that are resonating with you? And we'll just sort of listen to you all and take some notes and make some considerations about, Dr. Crapo will jot down notes up there.
Well,
Board Member Heights.
Oh, sorry.
See that, go ahead, I'm recognizing you, so we're trying to get me up.
Well, I thought since we was in this platform that, it's just a free fall, but no. Well, I'm just being honest.
Mr. Heights.
Yes, well, I picked goal 5. Because I believe that if we can get kids in pre-K, kindergarten, that we have a good chance of giving them a good projection down the road. And if we can find a way, if we can make sure that they got a good home structure, I mean, that's when you gotta pray to God that they got a good home structure, that when they leave school, because you always hear that people are beating up the public school, they beating up. Well, I believe that you can't put it all in school. The teacher's gonna do the best job they can do, giving the child all the information. Now, when they go home, if the person in charge is not saying, get that homework done, all that work that teacher did that day is lost. It's gone. Okay, now we got to start all over. So if we can find a way we are data driven, to get data where we know, where we hope and pray that the house is stable, which I know is probably hard to do, and we know these kids are they're on a good projection upward, if I'm making sense. And so I used the third kindergarten because I said it helps with number 1. It'll if we got them at the first grade, and we know we're doing a good job, the third grade would be somewhat of an indicator of how we're doing, if that makes sense.
So you went with 5 and 1.
And really 7, because that part had an adult advocate. Because if the kid ain't got adults at home supervising them, then we beating our head against the wall, unfortunately, if I can put it that way. Without being disrespectful.
5, 1, and 7, I think.
Yes.
Dr. Scarlett was asking for 4. So you're missing 1, sir.
I'm getting that to my partner.
Mr. Davis.
Things that make you go, Well, culture and climate. See?
You have that one.
Oh,
You said 5, 1, and 7.
right. That's why she's the president. Well, we can always go with, since I was reading and great reading proficiency, I might as well use 4 for 3 for math also, which would definitely be also the same soup warmed over.
Okay.
Make sure our kids are headed in the right direction proficiency-wise, because, hey, we have in kindergarten. So reading, writing, arithmetic, they all tie in together.
Dr. Scarlett. Anybody else?
Oh, are you calling other board members? Yeah, so other people, yeah, thank you. So, oh, sorry. Excuse
That's
me.
okay.
Okay. So, anybody else?
Ms. Jones?
Okay. For number one, I did choose, number one would be reading proficiency and growth, because I do believe if you can't read, you can't succeed. And that's one of the most critical things that we talked about when we went to Harvard recently at one of our training sessions. The reading level of the United States population is at an all-time low, so number one has to be the top priority. Number two would be number three, goal area, third grade mathematics, proficiency and growth. And I'm really hoping that we can really take a look at financial literacy added to our curriculum here in SLPS, because a large part of our population is on free and reduced and are having some financial challenges. And knowing so many young people have millions of dollars spent on them, and being young, they don't appreciate what money does and how money works. And I think if we start to train them early, that they'll develop a deep appreciation for the monies that are spent by their parents on them, as well as the school. And when they graduate, they'll have a financial portfolio that many of us would envy. The third one would be number 6. That would be the high school students prepared for workforce and post-secondary employment. And ninth grade students on track for graduation. I believe that this one is critically important. I remember when our board first regained its power, and there was a great focus on college and career readiness, but I'm really interested in seeing another focus on trades as well, because with the addition of AI added now, I think this college and career readiness is going to be a key to many of our young people's success, because many of them are not going to go to college. Many of them want to take up a trade, and trades are pretty lucrative now. The fourth one would be the student well-being. So many of our students are going through a lot in the society, and I almost wish this could be number one. A lot of them are having issues and that we need to address, and we have to be there for them. So, number 4. Thank you.
I was her partner, so thank you. That's what Ms. Donna and I have agreed on.
All right. Some of our other board members.
Sure. Going off of what you all just said, my number 1 is culture and climate, student well-being. Students can't be successful in the classroom unless they have what they need. That means resources, that means support, that means they need to feel safe, it means they need to feel loved, they need to feel a sense of belonging. So I think if we focus on student well-being first and foremost and create that culture and climate where students feel supported or families feel supported, then we can move on to academics, which is very crucial area. And so my number 2 would be third grade reading proficiency and growth. I think we need to look early on at what's going on. Early interventions are extremely important. So that would be my number 2, but going right along with that, number 3, third grade mathematics proficiency and growth. So again, let's start on the front end here. Focus on early interventions that are needed for our students to be successful moving forward. And then number 4 would be early learning, going off of that same note of let's focus in on when students get here, when they arrive, what are we doing for them to help support them as they continue on with us and hopefully stay with us within the district.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Could you repeat that again? So you said number 7, just making sure that Dr. Trey was catch. Number 5 was one that resonated with you.
So yeah, like my number 1 would be goal number 7, culture and climate. Number 2 would be Goal number one, third grade reading proficiency and growth, and then third grade mathematics proficiency and growth. And then number four, goal number 5, pre-K students ready for kindergarten early learning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So, okay. Ms. Ivory, thank you.
Mine is the same as Ms. Johnson's cousins. And I think it is important to, when we're trying to measure literacy, that is different than what ELA measures. But it's pretty important, and it will make our life so much better if they can read.
Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am. I was elbow partners with Mr. Hacks, so we're completely in alignment, as always. I just want to add one thing. When you're talking about low-hanging fruit, we started off with early learning, and I'm an evangelist for our pre-K program. I think it's wonderful. I think it's excellent. It's one of the greatest things the city has going for it. And to the extent that we can lean into what's already working so wonderfully and make sure that it's better and make sure that the students enrolled stay in our system, I think that's low-hanging fruit.
And I'll just add that all my kids learned to read in pre-K. They had a phenomenal teacher. And so it helped a lot.
All right, so I think everyone has had a chance to share in. And I know I can see that Dr. Crapo is over there doing a bit of tally to look at where we have the highest level of heat around, which goals, hot goals here, hot goal areas.
Felt like I was tallying an election, but okay. So goal 1, 3, and 7 all had 6 votes, and then there is a tie between goal 5 and goal 6. So goal 5 around the goal area is early learning, and then 6 is college and career readiness.
All right, thank you, Dr. Crapo. I'd like to bring you back to the group again to make some considerations about those goal areas. So once you just take a few minutes in turn talk with a neighbor about goals 5 and 6, and how about give you like 3 minutes to talk to each other about it, and then let's come back together. All right. So welcome back into One Conversation. I appreciate listening to the level of engagement for this. So I just want to bring us back to goals 5 and 7 and like, what are those conversations looking like within that? Sorry, 5 and 6. Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. You know, it was morning time a moment ago. So. Thank you. So 5 and 6, those conversations. What were your thoughts about those?
Well, me and my good friend here, we were. He is. No, as much as we really, really want this vocational training, as much as we want to give these kids access to the trades, we have to formalize a plan because we know if it's at, so to speak, if it's at Northwest and the kid that goes to Sumner wants to take up a class, we have to be able to facilitate him getting from Sumner to Northwest to take whatever particular trade he wants to take. So we have to find a way to make that happen without it costing the school, the Board of Arm and a Leg, and without disrupting his other teachings at his primary school. You know, we got to somewhat do it like they did. I'm telling my age. When I went to high school, because I went to Sumner in the 80s, that's when they changed O'Fallon to a standalone school. You know, but at first, Sumner, if you want to take up a trade, half a day at Sumner, half a day at O'Fallon. You know, so we'd have to find a way to formulate that again. Because I'm a proponent of vocational training because that's how I got to where I am, you know, through God's grace, you know, so I'm a very proponent of it. We just have to figure out a way to make it make sense, as they say in these days.
So which one is you and your
That was
team?
number
Are you
6.
taking out 6 or are you taking out 5? What we're trying to determine is which one are we going to move with? Or are we going to go
Give me
with?
all the information.
I mean, that's what we would go, because my team, you know, we went with 6 to keep 6 and make
see,
6.
I shouldn't have said nothing then, because I like 6, and with what I just said, stipulate that we got to find a way to make it work.
So you're going with 6.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Davis, you're going with 6.
Well, no, I thought we were saying that 6 is very important, but it's also just like not a 1-year goal.
Right.
You know, that's a very there are issues with access that we were talking about with our college and career program. I mean, it's a very good program. It's got a lot to offer, but it's just not accessible for everybody, and that is not a 1-year thing. That's going to require harder decisions, you know, going back to the old term, vertical alignment of how kids get into that program. It's like we were saying, you know, when you're in 8th grade, you may not know that you want to go into the culinary arts program. But, you know, if the culinary arts program was in your school and you're a freshman, you may find that interest. But if it's not in your school and you got to go across town to do it, that's just such a barrier that we have. I just always think that it's an accessible program. But I mean, to the point, all we did was talk about how great this would be if we can figure this problem out. I just don't know if that's a 1-year goal.
I'm gonna change my vote to number 6. We had a really good conversation, and I think what something Mr. Davis said, you know, reminded me. Our early learning is fantastic right now. I think we're doing some wonderful, wonderful things, and so with that being said, let's kind of turn our focus, and if we can only pick 4 goals, then I would say, yeah. My career is in college and career readiness, so I'm surprised I didn't say this from the start. But that point that you made, Mr. Davis, really made me kind of think about it a little bit more. And I think that college and career readiness piece is important to highlight and include in our list of 4.
I'm going with number 6 once again because I still recall all the hands that I shook during graduation, and one thing I said to them was dream big. And I don't think we should be putting barriers on
what it would take to make one program perform at one school or the other school. I understand what everyone is saying, but we have entrepreneurship. There are all different types of careers. And I'm looking at young people that have started their business when they were in elementary school, or they're in middle school, so they all have potential for careers and trades and what have you. And I don't think we should be waiting until we start talking about high school. I just think we need to look at the sky's the limit. And as the old saying goes, you ask not because you have not because you ask not. And I really believe in number 6. And I'm looking forward to our young people having more exposure, more counselors getting the resources that they need to help our students understand if they want to be an artist, sell their artwork, if they want to do culinary, if they want to bake cakes, they can do that. If they want to do 3D printing and develop something, they can do that. And I just hate the idea of making our students wait until they get to high school and start making decisions. So I'm going with number 6. Thank you. Oh, okay. Well, I hope that we go with number 6 because our students are suffering so much and our families are really hurting, and I think they need an opportunity to have some type of dignity early in their life and not wait on a handout and say by the time they get to the end of high school, well, what career am I going into? Let's start early, even if it's elementary school. Thank you.
I went with 6 again as well. I too thought about shaking hands at graduation, and I mostly told them I'm so proud of you. But hopefully if we do number 3 correctly, if we do if we do the 3rd grade reading well, that will, number 5 is part of that. And I have pre-K students ready for kindergarten as a specific goal is confusing to me because I feel like our pre-K students who go through pre-K are prepared for kindergarten and we can't control the other things. So I don't know if it's an attainable goal. Or maybe I'm wrong about which kids are ready. But anyway, I think that getting our kids to the end of K-12 and making sure that they know they have options for their future, they have plans, and that hopefully we've given them a lifelong love of learning, so whether or not they go to college or go to the trades or the military, they always know that, I'm going to start to cry, they can continue learning no matter what and talk about it with their friends. So another vote, same vote for number 6.
All right, I believe all of our board have spoken about that. I do want to offer one clarification about number 6, and I don't want to throw any monkey wrench in there. But the last word, it reads, high school students prepare for workforce and post-secondary employment. That is redundant. I think we meant education right there. So I don't know if that changes anyone's vote, but I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified right here so people know that they're voting none because we changed that language around that. The other thing I'd like to offer is, and I believe that Dr. Henning would also agree, is that college and career readiness starts in pre-K. That early identification, being able to, you can't be what you can't see. So having young people have experience very early on with understanding career-connected learning and different opportunities out there. I was on the bus with Marcus today, right, going to Walbridge. And Marcus told me that he loves to take care of animals, and I talked to him about the doctors to take care of animals, and we spoke about veterinarians. He told me about a vet, and I asked him, would you like to meet a vet and talk to a vet? He's like, I sure would. And so, right, so he's never met a vet before. He's never met one, but he knows that they exist. So how much more for him to see a vet who looks like him, maybe an African-American male vet, right? And so I told him I was going to go find him a vet to come and talk to him and some of his classmates at Walbridge. And Walbridge has a great STEM program there that they're building at the school. And so, again, you can't be what you can't see. And so having that early identity in us building the type of social networks to help support and unlock, because I have a social network that can unlock an opportunity for Marcus, is very important as well. So I just want to be able to share that as well. Thank you. All right, so wow, you all did tremendous work this evening. You should feel very much so proud of yourself within this. And so as we begin to think about moving this forward, this is only the beginning of our work on student outcomes focused goals. Our board retreat is on September 30th. We'll have some time to talk about our citywide plan for education, but we'll revisit these goals as well. On October 12th, Dr. Crapo will provide an overview of the data we collect as a district. The board has asked for us to do a dive into data. What is the type of data that we collect, and how does that actually connect to student outcomes? How do we think about proficiency and growth and other metrics or measures of success? Additionally, on this date, the board will have an opportunity to select our measures for each goal area as well. So thank you so much for your time and for your engagement, and I'll hand it back to President Cousins.
Thank you, Dr. Scarlett. Now, for the sake of time, I heard someone got out of here early, so I'm kind of put up against them. From the last board meeting, Mr. Davis, I heard you did an outstanding job. Good job, sir. Thank you, Dr. Scarlett and your team. I would like to bring Ms. Janet up before us so we can move forward on the board continuum training.
I had to tell Dr. Scarlett that she made my heart do a little flip, because in the 11 years that I've done this, I've never heard a superintendent ask the board to turn and do a think, pair, share. Just say, hey, I'm going, oh my word. So that speaks to her heart, and that speaks to her spirit that she is an instructional leader. And I'm just pretty dang excited about that. All right. All right, board. I've lost Matt, but he'll be back, and I know Natalie is out there somewhere. So I'm going to bring you to your take-home quiz. Did you get your take-home quiz, and did you do it? Oh, Emily did. Look at that. Okay. All right. Okay, and Tracy, you did too. All right. Well, we're going to see here as we go through this. And some of the things that we're going to talk about within your take-home quiz are actually going to be in very tight alignment with what Dr. Scarlett has taken you through as well. And I just kind of want to be able to talk through those particular things with you. Why do I keep asking you, what are your 6 governing tools? Why do I do that? Not a rhetorical question, remember? Okay, not a rhetorical question. Why do I keep asking you that?
It's important.
Well, or it could be irritating, one or the other. That is true. But why do I keep asking you what they are?
To ensure we as the board understand what our roles consist of in regards to governance.
Yeah. And the more I keep asking you about what are they, the more they're going to be in your head, and you're going to remember them. So I'm going to ask you at least 7 times, not tonight, but over the course of time. What are your 6 governing tools besides the superintendent evaluation process, which is what you worked on for this evening? So what are they? Policy, thank you. Okay. Your strategic plan, you call it the transformation plan version 4.0. Okay. All right. The budget. Come on, Matt. What's another one? Yes, thank you. And other kinds of plans like that that you do. And then the last one, There you go. All right, all right. The other reason why I keep asking you about those things is because if in fact they are not that you just have them memorized and in the top of your head, but if in fact you actually know what they are and that you actually use them and use them efficiently and effectively, then you're going to demonstrate naturally effective governance. All right, and you won't micromanage your superintendent. So that's why I keep coming back to them all of the time, all right? And they are such a wonderful guide for you in being able to stay in your lane, as we call it, and allow Dr. Scarlett and her team to do their work. So, state regulation, your board policy, believe it or not, yes, your board policy, all right? And then overall best practices will tell you that Dr. Scarlett's goals have to be aligned to two different things. What do they have to be aligned to? Thank you. All right. I don't know if you didn't hear that. It's the Missouri Superintendent Standards. All right. And so that is a particular guide to say to you that this is what an effective superintendent looks like. And these are the attributes that he or she will have. All right, so you've got to be aligned to that. And what else does it have to be aligned to if it's going to be effective? Think it's like I paid you $20. All right, so thank you very much. All right, Sadie, and that is exactly right. That it has to be aligned to the priorities, which you've already now identified, which are already connected to your transformation plan. One of the things that I want you to know is that those 4 areas that you selected are in fact aligned to the Missouri Superintendent Standards. You are aligned to Superintendent Standard number 2, and they're in your packet for you if you have, didn't bring yours, with you, which is about instructional leadership, and they are aligned to Superintendent Standard number 7, which is around climate and culture. All right. So guess what, St. Louis? Check, you got it. All right, which is a good thing as well. Now, here's where I might differ with you a little bit. But according to best practice, not according to law, anything like that, but best practice, well, it is sort of with state regulations, but Dr. Scarlett should have 4 or 5 performance goals each year. Is that true or false? Okay, here's where I'm going to caution you on this. In actuality, the law of diminishing returns will tell you that if you have more than 3 big hunger goals that you're working on, that the likelihood of achieving them diminishes almost to nil the more you add on. So that's not saying that you can't have 4. Absolutely you can, all right? But I just want you to caution and just to know that when it comes time to do her summative evaluation, when you get to that particular point, that expecting her within 1 year to be able to show impact. Remember how I talked to you about in your training about the difference between commitment, practice, and impact. Hopefully you remember that. And for her to be able to show impact, first of all, it's going to take time, and then it's going to be difficult to do if you give her like too many goals, all right, to focus on as well. All right, so in order to be a good goal, it has to be SMART, meaning it has to be, hello, okay, it does have to be measurable, and I'm going to talk to you about measures here in just a minute, but first of all, it has to be strategic, all right, and so it's got to be focused, which yours are, which is great. But the A is also very important. And the A means what?
Attainable.
Thank you. All right. And so, Matt, when you were talking about the fact of, looking at with the college and career readiness piece of it, talking about it being a year goal, it's not a year goal. It's not attainable within a year. Now, you have the goal span of up to 2026 on here, which is a fabulous thing to do, a smart thing to do. But just know that when you look at these goals, they have to be attainable. And I'm going to show you an example of what I mean here in just a minute. What's R mean? Relevant meaning it's tied to your overall district goals, all right, etc. All right. And then T means that it is time bound, all right, or timely. In other words, you don't let it go on for, infinity and beyond, that it is set within a particular time constraint, and you have done that. So I'm going to ask you on your little pop quiz to talk to me about what your thinking is, and this is on the backside and on page 2, of those 2 superintendent goals that I shared with you. These are sample ones. They don't belong to you, St. Louis, and this is not your data that I have on this handout. But these are ones that have been written by some other superintendents, and I just want to see what your thinking is on it. So the very first one is that here's our data, and for those of you who don't have a copy of this, I apologize, but here's our data from the MAP assessment. And so the particular goal was to say annually increase the MAP proficiency and advanced percentage rates in English language arts by 1 to 3% for all students and DESE subgroups of students. So what's your thought? Am I boring you tonight? Okay. I wore my sailor outfit for you.
When you ask,
Go ahead, President.
when you're asking what's our thoughts, are you saying, do we feel this is an attainable goal?
Uh-huh.
I would say no.
Why, Tony?
Because I think that's a bit much for a year to ask to see that level of increase.
To see a 1 to 3% increase each year? Okay, all right, is a little bit much, all right? Here's my other question to you. This is going to test your mathematics skills. If in fact, let's say we're going to have a 3% increase each year on this, how many years would it take, using this as your baseline data, to be able to say, okay, that all of your kids are hitting in the proficient range? How many years would it take? Try 15 minimum, okay? And so we love Dr. Scarlett, and she's going to be here for the next 25 years. We know that already, which is great, right? Your contract said that, didn't it? Okay, all right, yeah. But in any case, do you see how that ideology of just using the MAP assessment and just using your proficiency rates there, proficient and advanced, is sometimes, I don't want to say it's simplistic, but it is unrealistic, okay? And so look at the next one that's listed there, and that is annually decrease the percentage rate of all students and DESE student groups scoring at below basic by 5% on the MAP English Language Arts assessment. Do you see what it did? It flipped it. And so instead of just going to my, this leading indicator, which we want, of everyone to be proficient, it's about looking at the fact, okay, here's what we've got. When we have in English language arts 37% of our kids in below basic and 40% in our student subgroups, 40% of them there, then what we have to do is that we have to help. Here you go, Matt. Are you ready? It's about growth and it's about movement. You have to have a level in creating these particular measures. You're going to need to rely on the expertise of your cabinet, because you have to have a level of knowledge and understanding of how MSIP 6 is calculated and what happens with, how our MAP performance indicators and all those other kinds of things of how we categorize, I hate to say it, but we do, our kids in below basic, proficient, and advanced. And Cheryl's nodding at me, so I know I'm okay. All right? Because in essence, to be truthful, even in basic, there's obviously a range. And those kids who are kind of really close to the proficiency area, of hitting that particular cutoff score, they demonstrate some of those particular standards that you would expect for that grade level to be for proficiency. They're just not quite there yet. And so to lump everybody into this one particular group is not really accurate or fair. And it doesn't really show what your teachers are doing, what your staff is doing, and how they're being able to move kids. You're about to say something. Go for it.
I know that these are examples, but actually these remind me of the goals and evaluations that we did for Dr. Adams as well. Correct. And you and I have had this conversation. They made me, metaphorically speaking, want to tear my hair out.
Yep.
Because I think, here's my struggle with this, with just lumping everything together. We're in a school district where we have blue ribbon schools, we have comprehensive schools. And I just, if you put this percentage of this growth like this on there, I don't know if that is I don't know if we've ever done a good job of allocating the resources or identifying the issues at certain schools. And I don't know, it's just like it becomes a number. It never seems attainable to me. Or if it is attainable, it's attainable for some kids and not the others. And it's just never seemed, I don't know, it just never really seemed strategic to go to the SMART goals, to just put these numbers on for a district like ours. If we had 2,000 kids, if we had one elementary school, one middle school, one high school, great, this works beautifully. But I've just always struggled with us setting these goals up. And, we never got there. And I think earlier the goal was, well, let's get accreditation.
Right.
And that was easier. Well, it wasn't easier, but it wasn't easier. But it was attainable because that was something where you could move other pieces around to get that. There was some politics involved.
Yep.
But you can't politic your way to, well, sometimes maybe you can if they change the test, but you can't politic your way to growth in below basic if 100% of the kids in the school are homeless. So that's just, I just wanted to sort of put that out there as we're going through this because I hate this. I hate it. It seems like a waste of our time. I know we got to do it, but I hate it.
Well, but you can do it differently. And so one of the things, that Dr. Crapo and I have discussed a little bit is about leading and lagging indicators. And so I'm not going to get into all of that with you at this particular point in time. But, you can set the goal that I want to weigh 110 pounds by the end of next month. Okay, not really attainable, all right, for me, However, there will be incremental steps that will get me there. Like only, giving up my eating ice cream, 7 days a week, blah, blah, blah. There are incremental things that will help me to reach that upper goal, right? And so in essence, this can be your large goal, but what's really important, especially with the board to look at, is how is Dr. Scarlett doing on those incremental kinds of steps to be able to get there. And so that's why her growth plan is extremely important. Now, I didn't bring sample, there was a sample growth plan in your training video. I didn't bring one with me simply because of the kind of superintendent you have, all right? She's savvy, she knows how to write those. She will have a phenomenal growth plan, I know, for each one of those 4 goal areas. And that growth plan will describe the incremental steps that she and her cabinet are going to take in order to be able to get there. But you're right, man. You know, sometimes I just want to poke myself in the eye in talking about, you know, SMART goals, because it's pretty, I don't want to say it's arbitrary, but it's nice, but there's so much underneath it and that stuff underneath is so much more important, you know, about getting there as well. So that's why I caution against, and I watched this happen in Kansas City actually this summer. They were talking about, you know, goals, and they were trying to, you know, come up with their measures and, you know, their percentages and whatever. And for one of them that dealt with college and career readiness, they were looking at, you know, having it so that 100% of the kids will complete their FAFSA, you know, or whatever. Well, in actuality, when you have populations of undocumented families and students, you can't do that, you know. And so we talked about that arbitrariness of, you know, trying to get to 100%. That's not what's right for this district, you know, in this city. So I get it. I hear you, you know, or whatever. And that's where you're going to rely on your expertise from Dr. Crapo and from others to be able to help you to understand what are those incremental steps. And when you, as the board, meet with Dr. Scarlett, you know, throughout the year, it's those steps that you'll talk about, okay? You know, it isn't just getting, you know, here's the STAR data, okay, all right. That's one moment in time. But the word that Dr. Scarlett used was the portfolio of assessments. And so, you know, a kid is much more than a MAP score. And you've got to have multiple measures for all of these, because you don't, okay, when do you get MAP? We hope, you know, and that's one assessment, one time, etc. I know it's high stakes, I get it, but there are other ways to demonstrate that you're moving that way and that you're taking care of kids. Okay, I'm going to stop preaching now. All right, okay, there we go. All right. So why is it, let me go to this one, why is it really important then for each one of those 4 goal areas that Dr. Scarlett creates for you and has a written growth plan for all 4 of them? Why is that important to you as the board?
Clarity and accountability.
Thank you, Emily. Yes. Okay. It is about clarity and accountability. And so there are key structures that you want within a growth plan, but in fact, it's really up to Dr. Scarlett of how to put that together. The other thing that I want to caution you about is that I've had boards who have wanted to approve, you know, the growth plan. The answer is no, okay, because she needs the ability to be able to adjust, monitor, change, etc., and she doesn't need to be coming to you, you know, every time she, you know, wants to change the color of the paper clips or something, you know, or whatever. So that was an extreme example, but you know what I mean. She has to have that flexibility to be able to do that. Now, do you know, board members, right? And I'm gonna ask Tony and Matt and Dr. Scarlett not to answer this. Okay, I'm gonna test my other ones. But according to her contract, what's the deadline for the board to complete the full evaluation process? I'm assuming that Matt and Tony know it like off the top of their heads, but do you know?
I found the contract and read it.
Okay. Board President Cousins, what's the absolute deadline? According to Dr. Scarlett's contract, let me bring you back here with me. All right, Kay. All right.
I was just told not to answer, so I didn't.
No, you were somewhere else, my love, but it's okay. So, according to Dr. Scarlett's contract, what is the absolute deadline for doing her full evaluation process?
Her full evaluation?
Yep.
It should be at the end of each year.
So is that December? Is that January?
It has to be.
Is it June,
it's
July?
June.
It's June.
It has to be June. to start to prepare or to gauge or rate her for the next upcoming school year.
Okay.
Is
Is
that correct?
that true, Dr.
'Cause I'm
Scarlett?
almost certain it was June. It's June. It's June. It's June. I know it's June.
It says by July 1st.
It says by July 1st.
So the end of June.
Okay,
So that's-
you are exactly right. Got it. All right, all right. Snap back. Okay. The reason I ask that is because backwards planning, my friends. If in fact it has to be completed by June 30th, we'll say, because there aren't 31 days in June, correct? All right, okay. Then you need to create a tentative timeline for being able to implement her evaluation process. Remember what I shared with you, that evaluation is not something that is done to Dr. Scarlett, but with Dr. Scarlett. It's that collaborative piece, all right, as well. And so if you look on page 3 of your little take-home quiz, I gave you kind of what that process is. And I know that you are looking at a date, or I think it's going to be October, correct? To identify and approve the 23-24 performance goals. Is that correct? Hello. Got it? Okay, all right, all right. Now, I know that these are not really, that Dr. Scarlett was not with you last year. However, okay, you have to know what your beginning point is. You have to, and that's why all those wonderful measures that Dr. Crapo will be bringing to you will be extremely informative for you for identifying where is she right now, okay, or where are we right now. And one of the things that that I highly suggest that you allow her to do is to self-evaluate. Let her share with you where she thinks she is right now with each one of these particular goals. Did you hear me on that one? Okay, all right. And Dr. Scarlett, I don't know if you are comfortable with doing that or not, to self-evaluate. Okay, all right. I just think it is so powerful to be able to allow her to do that. Now, all right, and I'm putting this one on you also, Dr. Scarlett. And so when do you think you will be able to provide to the board some growth plans for these 4 goals of the things that you're going to be initiating, doing, moving forward, target dates, etc.? What do you think is reasonable?
Yeah, I was looking at the contract and it reads the period for self-appraisal is between January 1st and May. That I should go through the self-appraisal process. So thinking about how do I backward map into that. I think by November,
Okay.
I could have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the piece that is really, really important. And that is that this is not it's not a dog and pony show. It isn't like she's got to then, when it's time to do her summative, come up with, a big PowerPoint, and razzle-dazzle you. What really should happen then between November and really May, okay, is that on your board agenda, anything that is an agenda item that is connected in any way, shape, or form to her goal should be noted. And so, I've talked to you about, the whole thing too about, and I think you can do this more easily now, is that with your agenda items, is that behind them, you could align them or say, this goes with, goal number, 6, okay, college and career readiness, or whatever, and just leave it at that, and that is Dr. Scarlett's goal, okay, all right, as well. But that does 2 things. Number 1 is that it communicates to your public that you're actually working on these things, that this isn't something that you're just sitting around the table and talking about, all right? Number 2, it holds the cabinet responsible for knowing that you're serious about this and this is work that we need to be able to do, and we need to be able to support Dr. Scarlett in being able to provide the information and update on what's happening and of really moving you forward. And it holds your superintendent accountable for moving forward with those particular goals, and will inform her summative. So I'm going to highly, you don't have to, but I'm just going to highly encourage you to do that. It makes the superintendent evaluation process systemic so that it is a part of the natural things that you do. The other piece is that you should have at least 2, and I'm going to encourage more, but at least 2 closed sessions with Dr. Scarlett, where all you do is talk about how she's doing on these particular goals. It is informal, it's a feedback session. You have her written, growth plans in front of you. She talks about what her challenges have been, what her successes have been, back and forth. And that is the only thing that you talk about within that closed session. So yeah, is it going to have to be another special one? Yeah, probably. But it is so critical that you do that. You have to take care of her. All right? And taking care of her means that you have those conversations that are honest, back and forth, and supportive, and you give her your honest feedback. Because that's what she needs. She doesn't want to always be playing of what is it that the board wants, okay, kind of thing. And so I would highly suggest that if you're going to, let's say, we say from November through, I don't know, what do you think, Dr. Scarlett? Like a January and a March, a January and a May, January, March. Do you want to say tentatively January and March?
January, March sound good. And then that would give an opportunity perhaps for a May final reflection.
Correct.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yep.
Board, are you good with that? Okay. And then guess what? You don't stop. You don't just say, "Ooh, all right, okay, sit on my laurels here for a couple of months." You need to immediately, you don't have to do it in that May session because that session will take some time. But you need to be able to have a date where you come in June or July where you reflect and you plan for the next year. Does that make sense? So I'm going to put June or July. So are you comfortable with this timeline? Okay. All right. Then you need to make sure it's a part of your schedule, especially those sessions in January and March for having those special closed sessions. You need to make sure, and Tony, this is where I'm going to kind of put the burden more on you, is that when you and Dr. Scarlett are creating the agendas, that you are mindful of these 4 goals and how they can be aligned. So Ms. Henry knows how to, can put them in. It's not her responsibility to identify those. It's really yours. Okay? Wasn't this fun? All right. Okay, we're nothing but fun here. All right. Now, I am leaving in the latter part of September. Vacation. I'm not leaving, the world or anything. At least I'm not planning on it yet. So I will not be with you in your September work session, and I will not be at your retreat. So I'm sorry for that. But as I will tell Dr. Scarlett and Dr. Crickel, I'm a phone call away. I am happy to give feedback, thought, reflection on, as you are drafting kind of the subset goals and measures, if you would like. But it's just there if you want. I don't want to push myself into that. That's not what I'm about. The other thing I'm going to share with you guess what your next lesson's going to be on? It's one of your governing tools, and it begins with a P. No. It is your policy. And I know you look at me and go, our policies are blah, blah. Okay. I get it. Okay? I've been working on this. And yes, some of your policies are from 1997. I know that. All right. They are. Some of them are. But some of them, even though they might be a little aged, are still somewhat applicable. So I just want you to know and to understand that. In the learning session that I'm going to do for you on policy, I am going to share with you kind of what Columbia has as far as their policies, so that you can see a listing of those. Because I know that you're in that process of hopefully moving over to where you're using, the MSBA ones. I know we're in that process. Even though yours are old, you can still use them, and you should use them, all right? Unless they're asking you to do something illegal, which I don't think that they are, okay? All right? And so here's where I'm just going to tell you something, all right? I am able to track and to see who gets on and looks at their training video. Just thought I would share that. And the other thing, and I notice I haven't said anything, okay? The other thing is that for policy, I am going to give you a homework assignment that is connected to our LMS system, and you're going to have to type your individual responses into the system and send it back to me. So just know that. So I won't see you until your work session in October, when it won't be 742 degrees outside, hopefully. All right. And so, you know how I feel about you, okay? All right. Love all of you. And I am so thrilled, just want to say this, Dr. Scarlett, that your cabinet is surrounding. Kind of, and it's sad, it brings tears to my eyes that it's about time. So thank you for doing that. Ms. Cousins, did you need me for anything?
No, ma'am. You've given us our marching orders, and I thank you for that.
Okay.
Enjoy your vacation, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
Now we're going to move to the September consent agenda. Please take the time to look it over. If there are any questions, any items that needs to be pulled, please feel free to provide that in a discussion. And then we're going to move to the board reports. And I think I have an assignment. I'm looking for Ms. Henry somewhere around here. I do? Thank you, ma'am. As president, I would like to recognize and provide certificates of achievement to both Ms. Sadie Weiss and Mr. Tracy Heights. A lot of people are not aware, but the board, as board members, we must go through intensive training, 18.5 hours, as a matter of fact, of training. And I want to recognize both Ms. Weiss and Mr. Heights in regards to completing their training, and supply them with the certificate of achievement as well as their pins. I think you guys broke the record.
President Cousins, are we all now certified board members?
We are officially all certified board members for the St. Louis Public School Board of Education. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Are there any more board reports?
President Cousins. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. We're just going to give an update on CPN. Is that okay? No.
Go ahead.
It's very brief. CPN committee met on August 17th. We discussed the plan to finalize the MOU between the CPN and the Board of Education. So once that's finalized, the MOU will be sent to us for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Are there any more board reports? I do want to remind the board, we continue to strive to do the professional development. We do have several events coming up. One, we should be presenting, I think we are asked to be presenting at the Council of Great Cities in October. I should hope all board members have completed their professional development package if you're looking forward to being a part of that, as well as the MSBA conference that is coming up. Those things that we are working on, and we will always continue to strive for professional development for the board. Mr. Davis. You don't have anything? No other reports? I would love for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.